Jazz Station. KJAZ, Alameda.
The trumpet playing there, Charlie Shavers, the subject of our jazz notes today. Hope you enjoyed that. It's 8:32. And a Wednesday morning, and when we're really lucky on Wednesday mornings, we get people in here to share some of their favorite music with us, and today we're lucky. We have Gene Puerling here. Good morning, Gene.
How are you, Stan?
You look good.
Feel good.
Yeah?
Yep.
That Marin County living still appeals to you? Yeah.
It does, but I like to hang out here at the station, so I came early, and I have the camper in the parking lot, so I thought I'd have some breakfast out there. I'm all ready to go now.
Yeah, well, listen, when the show gets underway, I'll be going down there to fry a couple eggs up and stuff.
No problem. Over easy?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure most of the folks who are listening know Gene Puerling is a man who's been associated with the Hi-Lo's for many, many years. We heard Jerry just talk a little while ago about the Hi-Lo's appearance at the Stanford Festival. That's always good to hear, and I'm sure you're always happy to get together with your buddies.
Yes, we don't do it enough, really. You know, in the days when we worked together every day, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, for at least 3 hours, you really had a chance to sharpen things to the way you want them to be performed. And when you're apart for 6 months, sometimes it gets a little gray around the edges. So the more you're together, the better. And this is a good chance for us to rehearse once more also.
How much rehearsal time do you give something like this, given that you're not together as much? Whatever you can get, I guess.
Whatever we can get.
Yeah. And you pull people from different areas of the United States for the Hi-Lo's to come together. You got Don Shelton from coming out from Chicago, right?
As of this week, he's Don Shelton from Santa Monica.
Oh, he moved out.
He's on the West Coast now, right?
Well, I guess he'll be part of the scene out here then.
Yes, right.
Might even get more business if the screenwriters strike ever ends. Don is a very good studio musician and singer too.
Well-rounded. He's a good singer. All the reeds, everything. So he's great.
Yeah. And tell me about the rest of the folks from Los Angeles. Who else comes?
Clark Burroughs.
Our
tenors from there, and just hanging out, doing bits and pieces. And Bob Morris lives still in Pacific Grove, enjoys it.
Oh, yeah?
So they sort of all just get warmed up for our next little sojourn.
What does Bob Morris do down in Pacific Grove?
I don't know.
No one asks.
Squirrels mostly, I think.
But you got to watch out this year. They're rabid. Well, you'll be able to find out. Look out for little bite marks on his hands.
Right.
There. Well, the Hi-Lo's will be getting together and singing for folks, and I'm sure that those of you who are fans of theirs want to make sure that you get together with them for one of their rare appearances. And of course, there's the Singers Unlimited. You were associated with them and did all the vocal arrangements for that group also.
Right.
And so you got Don Shelton. He's with that group also, the Singers Unlimited, and
yes.
Bonnie Herman, Len Dressler.
Right.
And we certainly would love to hear some performances by them sometime, too. I'm sure you would, Gene. Also.
We've talked about that. I'd love to,
Listen, we're going to just get right into the music. What have you got for us today, Gene?
Well, I try to, it's called Stump Done. I really try to find some things that you and KJAZ don't have in the library.
I thought wasn't he a dancer in the 40s? He used to be on Ed Sullivan's show.
No, he was a quiz show host.
Stump Done? No, that was Peg Leg Bates. I'm sorry.
Okay. Anyhow, I tried to sort of get in there and look around. And a lot of the stuff is from the 50s and 60s, but I seem to go to that area. I don't know why. But I found a Bob Florence cut here on an album that came out in 61 or 2, I guess, called Here and Now. Bob Hardaway is the tenor, and it's just a nice swinging chart called The Song Is You.
All right. Mighty good. That's
nice?
Mighty good. That really just moves right along.
Yeah, that started at that time as a rehearsal band at the Union Hall in Los Angeles. And as a matter of fact, I believe Don Shelton from the Hi-Lo's and Singers Limited was part of that band. I don't think he was on this album, but he was part of that period. And the next album that came out with Bob Florence, Don was playing tenor on it, I believe.
Frankie Capp, the drummer, just bouncing along.
Yeah.
Bob Florence, he also made an album of music by, what was that English singer who had so many, Petula Clark. We had an album of Petula Clark songs by Bob Florence.
I'll be darned.
And it's a good album. Mm-hmm. It was a swinging, real fine album. He's done a lot of nice things.
Yes.
And you have something that you're going to sneak in on us a little later on. You showed me something earlier. Are you really going to play that?
Well, we'll see how time goes.
Okay.
If we don't talk a lot, we can listen to music together.
Okay. I'll just keep my mouth shut. Gene Perling is our guest today on KJAZ, and how about another selection? What do you got now?
Well, I've always enjoyed Dave McKenna, and even more so after hearing him live here from KJAZ that morning you had him on. He's really a fun person, you can tell. I've never met him, but after hearing the DJ thing that morning with Dave, you could get the feeling that he's a pretty laid-back guy, and plays just that way also. It just has such a marvelous sound and great sensitivity for ballads, I think, also. Also, the stride I love. I've got to get more of his stride work there on Concord. But this one is one of the Johnny Mandel things that I really enjoyed that he played in this particular tribute to Bill Evans, Emily.
Dave McKenna on KJAZ. Well, it just rolls off the ends of his fingers. It's beautiful music.
Pretty stuff. I really like him.
He's such a funny, understated man, and you know, I was ready for him when he came by because I was told that one of the things that he'll do is deny that he can remember any song. or play anything particularly well, you know, and he really sincerely says that. I mean, he means that and then the action takes place, and you say, "Who were you talking about?" Our guest today is Gene Perling of the Hi-Lo's and the Singers Unlimited, and Gene will be appearing in the Stanford Jazz Festival. What's the date again for that?
It's this coming Sunday, the 7th.
All right.
I'll tell you particulars later.
Okay.
News at 11.
Film. What do you got for us now?
Oh, this is a vocal chart I wrote for a group called the PM Singers, which is Phil Mattson and this marvelous young group of people, many of which now live in the Bay Area again, so let me mention their names. Joe Finetti, Jason Smith, Michelle Weir, Mary Heavey, John Paddock, who will be doing the sound for the Hi-Lo's at the festival this coming Sunday. He's a very good sound man and built a few recording studios in his life. And I missed Patty Fletcher. And this was a very, very hard-working vocal group, and they went out on the road for a while, but apparently found that it just was a little bit hard to get consistency in bookings, so it sort of fell by the wayside. But the album is excellent. It's on Dr. Jazz, if that can be found somewhere, and it's Phil Mattson and the PM Singers, and it's called Jubilee. The chart, the instrumental was written by Phil's son, Mark Mattson, and I think you'll enjoy this too. Johnny One Note.
Yeah, that's a pretty hot group there, Gene.
Marvelous arrangement by Mark. He's a young up-and-comer from Los Angeles now. Good writing, I think.
Yeah. I'd heard a lot of nice things about this record. For some reason or other, it didn't come our way, and sorry about that. How many the arrangements did you do on this?
Just that one.
Just that one?
Mm-hmm.
It was worth the time there. That's how many singers are in the group there?
5.
5. Is that a good number to work with? 5 singers?
6, excuse me.
Is there a certain point when it starts to get too cluttered? You start to lose the character by adding.
Not for me.
What's on? Yeah, I should have realized who I was talking to.
No, I think 6 is a real good number, in my opinion, because it gives the arranger. Forget the singers. I want the arranger to be satisfied, right? It gives the arranger a real good chance to settle into some good chords, some hot chords. The Singers Unlimited did 6-part harmonies because we were obviously only 4 people. But through the overdubbing process, I had a chance to make 6-part arrangements, and then we add the parts as we went along. But it's always nice just to have 6 singers just live there. As a matter of fact, if the Singers Unlimited had been able to perform in person, we would have had a lot of jazz festivals around the world. We had a lot of requests in Japan, particularly, for jazz festivals. But we didn't. It was just a studio format type thing, sound and performance. So we had to turn it down. But the Japanese people went so far as to say you can get as many singers as you need to make up that sound in Chicago, where we were located at the time. And we'll pay them for rehearsal time. First class transportation. It was a very, very large piece of money, too, I can tell you, to go over there. And then if you can't do that, we'll get you your own engineer, and whatever time it takes to make up the tracks that you want, to come over here and give the sound with you four on stage. Well, we all talked about it and felt that really it was sort of not really right to do that, because we only have four voices, and to go on stage with the four of us would have been sort of, cheating a little bit. Besides, my deepest fear was that someone would break the tape.
Yeah, that's...
and we'd be hanging out there going, ooh,
Yeah,
live.
just when you have 10 copies of it and all on machines waiting to go, roll them all at once.
It just panicked me. I'm sure it's done every day, but it really panicked me, So I like six singers. 5 and 6 singers are the best, I think.
I'm sure in your career with the high-lows for so many years that you had to go into studios and do lip-sync work a lot. I mean, that was a fairly common thing, I'm sure, for TV appearances. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes, I believe so. Not as much as when the Singers Unlimited were doing a tour around Europe, though, and Sweden and those countries. They're very used to lip-sync over there. And if you're one person singing and you have a chorus behind you, they don't feel badly about
Not
putting
running
you on at all, and the chorus is there, and you're just singing in the one voice as a soloist.
They're off camera, right?
Yes, right. It was marvelous. So over there, it just doesn't matter at all, and as long as you can lip sync the thing, and it doesn't really matter about the amount of people. They don't discern the fact that people are aware of how many people are singing or how many parts there are.
The one thing I wonder about lip syncing, when you do that, do you actually sing? They cut off the mics, or do you just move your lips and try to create the illusion that you're really pushing air through your mouth at the time and notes? Or how do you do that?
No, you really do sing. It helps you to get the feeling, and the breathing is more obvious then. But there are some marvelous tricks you have on stage, on camera, when you can't really remember the dumb lyrics, right? Because you haven't sung it live ever, and you just sort of cross the microphone, like that way, and dip your head when the word comes, and you can sort of get rid of it that way and pick it up,
Hands over the mouth.
Or anything like that, right? There are a lot of little tricks, devious things,
Things you learn from ventriloquists, huh?
Yes, right.
Gene Puerling is our guest today. Is Gene Puerling, my good friend. I always enjoy calling Gene up in the most inopportune times and just dragging him into conversations he has no need for.
I love it. I don't get a chance to go in depth that much about what's going on and, radio.
And I'm always looking for a chance to get philosophical about anything. That's one of my, it's a flaw in my character.
I wish you wouldn't call collect. That's the only thing that's a little rough,
Oh, I'm sure we can work something out.
Okay, fine.
Back to more music.
Okay.
By this cheapskate Gene Puerling.
Yeah, right. It's all over anyhow. Roger Kellaway, but we both love dearly, I know that. We did an album with the Singers Unlimited with Roger. He's really a kick and a marvelous eclectic type of guy in all ways. But this album I don't know where I got this album, Stan.
Yeah, I've never seen it before.
No.
You did it again.
It's a nice shiny cover. Roger Kellaway's Nostalgia Suite with the cello quintet this time. And it was on the Disc Washer label, who are better known for making things, I guess, for cleaning your records and things like that. But they delved into this direct-to-disc period for a while, and thus this album came out. But some of the titles are marvelous. The first one is and the second one is Will You Come and Feed Me? And the third one is the one we're about to hear. But before we do, I must tell you who's on this one. The late Edgar Lustgarten was so marvelous and lives on. Joe Porcaro on drums, great. Chuck Domenico and M.L. Richards, all marvelous people. And this particular thing is called The Escalator as Applied to Anti-War Blues.
Think about that.
Levity there.
Roger is a hard guy to describe to a lot of folks. He's such an immensely talented, crazy human being.
Yes.
What's he like to deal with? I've interviewed him. He seemed very serious. At one time I interviewed him, he was a very serious man.
When we were doing our album, I went down to Los Angeles, Westlake Village, I guess he lives, and I went down there, and I expected to spend about 3 hours in laying out the charts, the vocal charts that I had done. And then I was thinking he'd call me back in a week or so and have some questions, and we'd go over it by phone. He would not let me out of that place. He wanted to know what every chord, how it related to the next one, what he might be able to do here. I spent 2 days there, the second day of which turned out to be his birthday. So a whole plethora of marvelous musicians and great people from Los Angeles were at the party, and I really enjoyed staying there. But he's a very meticulous writer and really wants to do things very... His scores are just marvelous to look at. They're just great.
The time that I interviewed him, he was up here. He was in the Bay Area at the Circle Star Theater. This goes back about 1967 or 68 or something like that. And he was an accompanist for some pop singer. I can't remember who it was. Might have even been Dionne Warwick. Believe it or not, yeah.
Could be, yes.
Yeah, but he's such a and the other thing, he was actually involved in a fairly successful pop song. He wrote the arrangement for Melanie Saskia. Remember Melanie? And I've Got a Brand New Key.
No,
that was a song. It was a hit song in the 70s, and Roger was the arrangement, and it was Roger's kind of piano, kind of ragtime piano thing in the background.
Mm-hmm.
It was
he has some marvelous material. He and Gene Lees have collaborated many times, including a few movies. And they're really talented together. Good team.
Another thing that he did was a beautiful animated film that was a real heart-rending thing called A Mouse and His Son. Wasn't that what it's called? A Mouse and His Son?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I've got all the music from that film, and there's a lot of good music in the film.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Roger Kellaway.
Yes.
Now, I'm glad you did that album just in time with him, too. That's a lovely thing.
It's fun.
Yeah. Our guest is Gene Puerling today. And Gene, with the high-lows, one thing that you always have a lot of fun with the Singers Unlimited. There's that sense of joy, but there's also that real understanding of the beauty that group plays. But with the high-lows, it was very playful most of the time. There was always, you never knew what surprise was going to happen. You drove the people at Columbia Records crazy, I'm sure.
Well, I think we did, because when we left Columbia, for instance, we owed them $63,000 in stuff that we hadn't paid for yet from the big band days and that we used, you know. We always used large bands with Comstock and all those people.
They might, if they start to reissue that stuff, maybe they'll get their money back. I'm sure they will.
I hope so. Columbia needs it. Should go to Japan, right?
Yeah, they're hurting.
Another thing going to Japan.
They're hurting over there. Well, I guess talking about the humor of the group leads us to this next selection you found for us, Gene.
Well, I don't find it humorous. It's one of my nicest. Sorry. That's this is really one of the nicest things I have in my library. I mean, Johnny Mandel is. I just think he's probably, if not one of the top 5 writers in the whole world, for ballads. And this I picked up. It's not played too much. You don't hear it much on the air, but I did pick this up, and it's a lovely version of his great song, "The Shadow of Your Smile."
Oh, this is going to be pretty. Get ready, folks.
Remembering the shadow of your smile.
Where did you find that nugget, Gene?
It was right next to the Madame Foster Jenkins album, somewhere in a used record store.
Oh, I thought that might have been one of those supermarkets.
I think it was Village Music in Mill Valley, as a matter of fact. It was.
You want to tell the folks who that was?
That was Mrs. Miller, don't you know?
Well, I mean, I know. But I just wasn't sure that maybe the audience appreciated it.
One thing you can tell me, Stan, was this the Mrs. Miller or the lady that was tied in with being in the audience all the time at the Tonight Show, or am I thinking of something?
No, you're
else?
thinking of the lady who was on. Darn! Now I've just slipped my mind. She used to be in the audience. No, it's not the same Mrs. Miller though.
Right.
She was just. I just noticed that the liner notes were written by Gary Owens for this, and it just seems so appropriate. Mr. Droll. Now I can't remember what Mrs. Miller was another lady. Now I can't remember the name of the show she was on all the time. And
well, the talent speaks for itself in any case.
Certainly does.
Right.
Did you weren't involved in the vocal arrangements on this at all in any way?
They wanted me to, but I said, well, there's not too much to do, and I can't do organ well, so, what the heck.
Well, it's nice to hear someone whose perfect pitch is so rare nowadays. What more can you say other than... Our guest today is Gene Puerling, and we'll get him for that. But in the meantime, let's talk about a concert that you have coming up.
Right. Sunday is the festival at Stanford campus with Stan Getz. Didn't bring all my information along here, as I said, but I think I can remember, of course. The Stan Getz Quartet, Viva Brazil, Joe Pass, the High-Lows, and the Stanford Jazz All-Stars, which I presume will close the show or whatever. But the gates are open at 12. It's going to begin at 1 or 1:30, I forgot. But it's really, I've never been there, but I understand the Frost Amphitheater is a lovely place to have a picnic and such, and that's what they're counting on. So it should be a ball to do, and looking forward to doing that on Sunday.
It's a benefit, too, is it?
It's a benefit for their jazz department, which, as you may or may not know, is not really supported by Stanford to the extent that other schools of music are. So they have to go out and scratch around for dollars. And this is one of their few productions during the season, the year, as a matter of fact, in which they managed to get some money together to bring in other projects and such within their jazz program. So I hope everyone will come out. We'd love to see everyone, and we'll be there Sunday, the High-Lows. And in fact, I think after this next thing we're going to play, we'll play something we'll be singing on Sunday. So. Oh,
good. Get to hear the High-Lows. But right now it's the man who's in charge of her.
Stan Getz,
yeah,
right.
Stan Getz.
Gorgeous song, too.
Listen on KJAZ.
I bet you made the cutest pie. You must have been a beautiful baby. 'Cause baby, look at you now.
Oh, those High-Lows.
Isn't that cute?
They're a bunch of cut-ups.
You'll be able to hear that very turkey at the festival on Sunday.
Oh, yeah?
At Stanford.
That's one that you feel real confident you can jump right in there and do that one.
We miss Frank Comstock and the big band, however, but that should be nice.
Frank Comstock. Let's see, and you worked also with, you used Frank Duvall a lot.
Not a great deal, but whatever we did with Frank was marvelous. Actually, two of the things we did, the nicest things we've ever done, excuse me, are in the can at Columbia or in Japan someplace right now, and were never released. It was a beautiful ballad. Can't think of that. But anyhow, he's a marvelous writer.
Is that a whole album of stuff that's...
No, they were just little singles at the time when Mitch Miller was handling us.
Oh, he handled a lot of people.
Oh, yes. We had violent arguments together.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Yes, and we can attest to what came out by one of our little 45, whistling down the lane. Da, 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 da. And I couldn't get it in my head that that was right for the High-Lows, so we really sawed off at each other,
So Mitch was kind of a tough guy to deal with.
For me, he was, and I was young and impetuous.
I understand that he was kind of tough for a lot of people to deal with.
Yes. I've talked to Rosie Clooney about it, though, and Rosie said, well, he just started my whole world,
Yeah.
And for her, it was just right, at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
But we were already off-the-shelf crazy anyhow, so we couldn't do anything with us with that type of material.
But you really enjoyed those. Those arrangements are phenomenal. I mean, the vocal arrangements and the band. I mean, there was a lot of work and a rehearsal that had to go into this stuff because it was so precise and so dynamic. The music was very...
Yeah, we did a lot of rehearsal on those things. By the way, before I forget, another person that we did a few albums with was Marty Paich. And he's marvelous, of course. And he's, his son is of Toto fame.
Yes.
Yes.
And so you were talking about Joe Porcaro. His son is with Toto also.
That's right. But Marty, there we go. We're talking about forgetting things. Don't give me more than 10 seconds because I forget about it. So let's go on, please.
Okay.
Hello, doctor?
Why am I calling you?
I can't remember.
Is there something wrong with me? Stan Getz, a little while ago, and I thought about you, Kenny Barron, George Mraz, Victor Lewis, and the album called Voyage. Now, Gene Perling is our guest today on KJAZ, and it's just an interesting thing that you were scheduled to come in at this point. We're happy you are, but it's nice that it works up to this event that's coming up Sunday, and we're going to let Jerry Dean tell you about where you can hear the High-Lows and Stan Getz and others this coming weekend.
Come join Stan Getz, Viva Brazil, Joe Pass, the High-Lows with the Don Haas Trio, and others performing Sunday afternoon, August 7th at a jazz picnic in Stanford's Frost Amphitheater. Bring a picnic and a blanket, enjoy the sunshine and the sounds at Stanford's beautiful Frost Amphitheater, Sunday, August 7th, starting at 12:30. Gates open at noon. Tickets are available at Bass or Tressetter's ticket office, and all proceeds benefit Stanford's jazz program. Don't miss the magic of Stan Getz, Viva Brazil, Joe Pass, the High-Lows with the Don Haas Trio, and many others.
So that's the event. Don Haas Trio will be. Do you know who Don's going to have in the band?
Yes, it's Larry Grenadier on bass and Scott Morris on drums.
There you go.
They're both fine players, and of course Don Haas.
Hey, don't miss a chance to spend an evening at Kimball's. When would that be? That'd be well, you wouldn't want to miss a chance tomorrow night. That is Dave Bendikeit's quartet that'll be appearing there between 9 and 11. And it says here you can experience the new cool sound of jazz at Kimball's. This is something new. I'm really looking forward to this. The new cool sound of jazz at Kimball's, Franklin and Grove in San Francisco. Phone 861-5555. And I'm sure someday historians will say the cool sound of jazz, which originated in 1988,
right, was
inspired by the heat wave that was going on in California and developed a whole new sound.
Yeah, they probably ordered air conditioning in the place or something.
Fine with me. Gene, what do you got for us next, pal?
I've got, from the depths of my library, an album called Rhythm in Motion by Johnny Williams. And every time I look at this album, when I do run through the library, I think of Johnny in front of the Boston Symphony on television as we see him weekly. And the fact that he did these albums early on. This is 1961, I believe. Yeah, 61. And about that period, he also did two albums with Audrey Previn, featured on piano. But Johnny Williams' marvelous jazz orchestrations. And I don't think most people know that he had that kind of jazz influence, certainly for movie scoring and everything, but in the classics. But let's listen to this one. It's just a nice thing that they were trying a new studio out at Columbia on Hollywood Boulevard. It was brand new, and they were sort of putting the instruments all around the places you can see, and a bunch of microphones. And their first attempt at real stereo.
This is we're going to have a stereo experience now with Johnny Williams.
Okay, fascinating rhythm.
There's your old friend. Gene Perling is our guest today, and Rob McConnell is, I always assume, a good friend of yours.
A very good friend, and I really feel so badly, as I'm sure many of your listeners will also, because they love the Boss Brass, many of them, and unfortunately, Rob and the Boss Brass did their last concert about a month and a half ago near Detroit at Macomb College, and there are no more Boss Brass, so get those albums and CDs while you can. But Rob's moving to Los Angeles and heading a new department for big band jazz at the Dick Grove School of Music, and we wish him all well, and all the people in Los Angeles, all of his musician friends are very, very excited. And I'm sure he won't be in the schoolroom all day, including the evening. I mean, he'll be out doing some stuff around the edges there, playing with some good guys, and perhaps, as you said, maybe even starting a new band. Who knows?
Yeah, that's wonderful. But I'll tell you, those Toronto musicians, he showed the world that there are fine musicians everywhere, and people who have a real feel and love for jazz all over the world. And those folks up in the snow-covered area of Toronto that we like to, at least we perceive it that way a lot. He dazzled a lot of folks with those musicians.
Yes, there are so many from the band that have gone on to do their own things. Ed Bickert, Don Thompson, Rick Wilkins. A lot of people have done it, and if we get a chance, I'll play a few of them later.
Yeah. You were talking about this album that we just played from Street of Dreams was a direct-to-disc session. I've never seen one of those, but you were present at this session.
Yes, I was in Toronto at the time, and they were doing these things. And for your listeners who are not acquainted with this, it's a tough process for the musicians because you do one whole side of the album at a crack. And that means you have about 6 seconds between tracks, between selections, and they bring down the sound in the studio in the control room so there's no noise, and meanwhile the musicians change music and they have to be ready to go within 6 or 10 seconds, and you can't make any mistake. I forgot which, I think it was da 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 da. What is that? Everything Happens to Me. I believe that was on that album. One of the soloists made a mistake right at the end of it, and I believe that was the last track on the album, or the second last track, and they had to start all over again. The poor fellow just got up and walked out of the studio, got on his it was Guido's. It was Guido, as a matter of fact.
Guido Basso.
Guido Basso. And he got up and just walked out of the studio, didn't say anything, got on he has a little motorcycle, went around town for about 20 minutes and just cleared his head and came back. He said, okay, because it's just, you're so tight trying not to make a mistake and do the best you can. And those are tough charts that Rob's writing, of course. So
yeah, it's pretty challenging.
None of them wanted to go through the process again of direct-to-disc after that.
I don't suppose that happens too much anymore. Does anybody even use that now that digital technology has sort of become the big thing? Does anybody do direct-to-disc?
I see some ads in some journals for that type of thing, but I think it's in a different form now, and I don't really know the ramifications of that technically. When
you told me about, when you were mentioning Guido Basso going out the door, I thought we were going to hear the door close and all of a sudden scream
well,
from
I'm sure
behind.
he did that too, but oh boy. So
he's a good player.
Yeah.
And that thing by Johnny Williams before that, Rhythm in Motion, an old Columbia album. Boy, this is the man, of course, responsible for so many of the Academy Award winning themes. The Star Wars series and Jaws and Close Encounters and so many other things he's written music for. And of course, he's the director of the Boston Pops. But I guess at the point when stereo was really just blossoming, his kind of arrangements were ideal for a demonstration type record to really get the full effect of stereo, because he really does use the full range of the orchestra and dynamics. And I enjoy that.
Yes, right. And as an arranger, he knows how to do that for this particular medium too. At that time, they were really doing a pretty good stereo thing, as you can tell there. As you said, more a la
Sauter Finnegan
type things, but ping pong and
yeah,
bells and whistles and things,
Did Johnny Williams ever do an arrangement for the Hi-Los at all? Did you call?
I don't believe so. No, he didn't.
Well, we'll work on it. I'll call him and see.
Would you? Okay, yeah. I'll be home this afternoon.
Didn't we hear something by the Hi-Los? You must have been. Oh, we played that. We talked about that earlier.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Then we're almost all caught up. Let me run a couple of commercials, Mr. Puerling, and then we'll get back to more of this great music you brought.
Good.
All right. Gene Puerling's our guest today. He's our celebrity DJ, and he's celebrating on the other side of the microphone here with a cup of coffee, and we'll return with more music on KJAZ after this. Gene Puerling is our guest today. We're going to have a chance to hear his voice in a crowd once again. He always sings in a crowd. Why is that, Gene?
Well, if you'll notice my sketchy career as a vocal singer, you will not hear me singing solos very much. I think I've done 2 or 3 in all the 30 albums we've done with the Hi-Los and Singers Unlimited, and one which I even decided not to do, but I have a copy of it, at home.
In a vault.
In the vault, right.
Yeah. Did you ever make any records? Were you ever a single act as a singer? Did you ever do that at any point in your career?
No.
Even early on, you didn't do that?
Freelance singer for commercials in Chicago
and
San Francisco, but that's about all I've done that way. I'd sneak a few things in once in a while, but
he's a modest man. I think he's
no. Just can't sing solos that well, or at least I don't like to anyhow.
You really enjoy arranging. Your arrangements for vocal arrangements are so wonderful. Do you ever do instrumental arrangements, Gene?
No, I don't, and I really would like to try it sometime. I'm just beginning to touch, the very beginning of touching bases with equipment in the computer type situation regarding music, and getting all the bells and the toys, and everything like that. Because I've never studied orchestration or formal music for that matter. I think I can probably play around now with this equipment and orchestrate some things, and then possibly have someone check it over like Don Haas and see if I'm doing things correctly, and then get some band somewhere to do it as a rehearsal band status or something. I'd just love to hear something that I've done.
That would be a wonderful experience, wouldn't it?
By the way, Fernando Galbart, is that his name?
Yeah.
Yes, Fernando. Very nice man who produced a few albums for Rob McConnell and other people. Called me one day from England, and he said, Gene, would you write a string arrangement for me? I said, where are you? He said, I'm in London. I said, well, I've never done it in my life. He said, I know you can do it. It's for this and that. And we're doing it in 2 weeks. I said, and I turned him down. I said, I really don't think I can do it at this time, but I thank you very much. And maybe another time, and I'm sincere about that. I would like to try that.
Okay. Hey, that would be wonderful. I'd
love to.
Okay, let's see if we can get him to do it. Work on him. But, of course, you do some fine vocal arrangements. You did one here with Rob McConnell and the Boss Brass backing your other group, the Singers Unlimited. This is from an old MPS recording. Can people still get this one?
Yes,
Gene?
this is one of 6 CDs that are available on the Polydor label now. It's the MPS library, but out in Polydor.
Tell us about this.
Well, Rob said that this album was the best thing that he ever wrote. That was at the time. He said, why don't I write this way for the Boss Brass? You know, he just loved this project, as did we, and he just was at the very edge of the things he'd done up to that point. And in his own opinion, he said, I just love this album, you know, and the guys played very well. And so I think Rob is one of the best people, although most of the instrumental people that we've used through the years have had this faculty for being able to weave backgrounds to what I write as a vocalist and the way we sing things. It's a very difficult project, particularly with the Singers Unlimited being a very thick-sounding harmonic group. So you have to be very careful when you plunge in with anything from the background standpoint, and it has to have some meaning. But Rob filled up all the spots very, very well, made lovely lines that would go behind us when we're doing thick harmonies, and then when we were doing unisons, then the band would be right there for great support. And it was just a marvelous harmonic thing together, you know, very woven very nicely, I think.
This is one you selected from the Singers Unlimited with Rob McConnell and the Boss Brass, and it's Sophisticated Lady on KJAZ.
They say, lady,
You like to call him Mr. Ed?
Mr. Ed.
Mr.
That's his name.
Ed Bickert.
Yes. And Don Thompson.
And Don Thompson, two very fine musicians from the Toronto area.
Yes, and of course in the Boss Brass, too.
You getting money from the Chamber of Commerce up there in Toronto?
Considerable.
Oh, fine with me.
No, I'm right. I'm straight out about it, you know.
I just want to understand, that's all. And hopefully get my little piece of the action, too. And, of course, those two folks, I guess Don Thompson might have been part of that session with the Singers Unlimited and Rob McConnell.
Yes,
yeah.
right.
Yeah. Nice album, pretty stuff.
Yeah, there's so many people that have come out of that band, the Boss Brass, that they're going to be around for a long time too. You know, so Rick Wilkins, Ian McDougall.
Yeah, no slouches, and Terry Clark is certainly one of the best drummers around. We'll get back and talk a little bit more with Gene Puerling in just a moment. I have to catch up on some business.